Humanity stands at a crossroads. Despite all our progress in science, technology, and comfort, a quiet unease still runs beneath the surface of modern life. We have built powerful systems, yet often feel powerless within them. We are connected to everyone, yet more divided than ever. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle suggests that the root of this suffering lies not in the world itself, but in the state of human consciousness. Tolle begins by observing that humanity's greatest challenge is not external, it is internal. The collective mind, ruled by ego and identification, has created a world of endless striving and conflict. Our thoughts have become our masters, and our sense of self has been reduced to stories, labels, and roles. We seek fulfillment in possessions, status, and recognition, only to find emptiness waiting at the top. He calls this the egoic consciousness, a state where identity depends on separation, me versus you, mine versus yours, success versus failure. The ego thrives on comparison, fear, and drama because it cannot survive in stillness. The more we chase fulfillment through form, money, fame, relationships, achievements, the more we strengthen the illusion of lack. But amid this illusion, a quiet transformation is already taking place. Tolle calls it the birth of a new consciousness, an awakening beyond ego, where we no longer derive our identity from thought, but from awareness itself. This shift, he says, is not an abstract idea. It is an urgent necessity. Humanity will either awaken or self-destruct under the weight of its unconsciousness. The new Earth Tolle speaks of is not a new planet, but a new way of living, one rooted in presence, compassion, and awareness. It begins not with revolutions, but with realizations. When even a single person awakens, the vibration of consciousness on the planet changes. Tolle's message is simple, yet revolutionary. If enough people awaken from the trance of ego, the world will change not through force, but through frequency. The true transformation of humanity begins with the transformation of the individual. This is the essence of A New Earth, awakening to who we truly are beneath the noise of thought, and allowing that awareness to reshape the world. Section 1. The Ego, Humanity's Collective Illusion. At the heart of A New Earth lies one central understanding. The ego is not who we are. It is the false self, a collection of thoughts, roles, and stories that we mistake for identity. Eckhart Tolle describes the ego as a phantom created by the mind, one that survives only through identification and separation. The ego says, I am what I have. I am what I do. I am what others think of me. It lives in constant comparison, needing to be right, important, and in control. But beneath that endless striving is fear, the fear of being nothing without these labels. 1. How the ego hides. Tolle explains that the ego is cunning because it doesn't want to be seen. It hides behind our everyday behavior, in judgment, pride, resentment, and even the need to be spiritual. The moment we define ourselves against something or someone, the ego gains strength. It thrives on opposition. Without conflict, it fades. He writes, the ego needs to be at war with something. That is its nature. This is why arguments, gossip, or constant dissatisfaction feel subtly addictive. They give the ego a sense of identity. 2. The ego and possession. Much of modern culture, Tolle observes, is designed around the ego's hunger to possess. We collect things, titles, followers, and experiences, not because we need them, but because they reinforce the illusion of self. Yet even when we achieve what we want, satisfaction is brief, because the ego's survival depends on wanting more. The next goal, the next recognition, the next upgrade. This is not ambition, it's addiction. The ego confuses movement with progress, desire with direction. 3. The pain of identification. The more we identify with the ego, the more we suffer. Every criticism becomes a wound, every loss a collapse. The ego turns life into a battlefield, always defending, comparing, and fearing. But Tolle reminds us, the ego is not an enemy to fight. It is a pattern to observe. When we begin to see the ego's mechanisms in action, when we notice the defensiveness, the need to prove, the craving for recognition, something remarkable happens. Awareness steps in, and awareness dissolves what it sees. 4. Collective ego. What's true for individuals is also true for humanity as a whole. Nations, religions, political movements, and even corporations develop collective egos, group identities that define themselves through opposition. These collective egos are responsible for much of human suffering: war, inequality, exploitation. Humanity's outer conflicts mirror its inner unconsciousness. Tolle's insight is both simple and transformative. The ego cannot survive awareness. When you witness your thoughts without identifying with them, you begin to awaken. You realize that behind the constant noise of me, there is a deeper, quieter presence, the true self. In that recognition, the illusion begins to fade, and the possibility of a new earth begins to emerge. Section 2. Awakening from identification. The first step toward awakening, Eckhart Tolle says, is recognition, realizing that you are not your thoughts, emotions, or stories. You are the awareness that observes them. For most people, the mind has become both master and identity. Every thought, I failed, I'm not enough, they're wrong, I want more, is accepted as truth. But the moment you see a thought as a thought, rather than as who you are, a subtle but profound shift begins. The observer awakens. Tolle calls this shift disidentification. It is the breaking of the spell that the mind holds over us. The voice in the head never stops talking, judging, rehearsing, comparing. But for the first time you notice it. That noticing is the beginning of freedom. 1. The silent witness. Awareness is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. Clouds come and go, but the sky remains untouched. When we identify with every cloud, life feels chaotic. But when we rest as the sky, pure, vast awareness, peace returns naturally. Tolle writes, the moment you recognize the voice in your head as not who you are, you begin to awaken. In that instant of recognition, thought loses its power to define you. A small gap appears between the observer and the observed, and within that gap lies all transformation. 2. Watching without judgment. Awakening doesn't mean suppressing thoughts or emotions. It means watching them with presence. When anger, fear, or sadness arise, the ego reacts. Awareness simply notices. The ego says, "This shouldn't be happening." Awareness says, "This is what's happening." That simple acceptance dissolves resistance. And with resistance gone, pain begins to heal. 3. The end of psychological time. Tolle also explains that identification keeps us trapped in psychological time, the endless mental movement between past and future. The mind says, "Someday I'll be happy," or "if only I hadn't failed." But life never happens in those moments. It happens here, now. In the stillness the mind overlooks. Awakening is the return to this timeless present, the only place where peace can exist. 4. From thought to being. As identification weakens, a new dimension of experience opens, being. You begin to sense the silent aliveness underneath everything. in the breath, in a tree, in stillness itself. You realize that life is not something you have, it's what you are. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, the shift from thinking to awareness, from person to presence. It doesn't mean abandoning the world. It means living in it more consciously, acting, speaking, and creating from stillness instead of reaction. When even a few people awaken, Tolle says, it creates a ripple in the collective consciousness. Awareness spreads silently, from one mind to another, from one heart to the next. The new earth begins not in governments or systems, but in the space between two thoughts, when one human being finally remembers, I am awareness, not the voice that speaks within it. Section 3. The present moment, the gateway to awakening. If there is a single doorway to the awakened life, Eckhart Tolle says, it is the present moment. Everything that truly matters, peace, joy, love, awareness, can only exist now. The mind lives in time. Consciousness lives in presence. Most people spend their entire lives trapped between memory and anticipation, replaying the past or rehearsing the future. But the past is gone and the future never arrives as imagined. The only thing that's ever real is this moment. And yet, it's the one thing we constantly overlook. 1. The mind's distraction. Tolle explains that the human mind is addicted to time. It believes salvation lies somewhere else, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next version of life. It whispers, when this happens, then I'll be happy. But this illusion is endless. As long as happiness depends on conditions, peace remains postponed. He writes, nothing has ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. This realization dismantles the mind's illusion of time and reveals a truth so simple, it feels revolutionary. Life is now. 2. The power of acceptance. To live in the present is not to abandon goals or ignore responsibility. It's to bring full awareness to this moment without resistance. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means clarity. When you stop fighting what is, you respond from intelligence, not impulse. Tolle reminds us, surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. When we resist, we suffer. When we accept, we align. 3. Presence and stillness. Presence is not something to achieve. It's what remains when the noise of thought quiets. You can feel it in a silent room, in the space between breaths, or in the calm after awareness returns. That stillness is not emptiness. It's full of aliveness, intelligence, and peace. It's the same stillness that underlies all creation. In that state, time dissolves. You no longer think about life. You feel life directly. The barrier between self and world disappears, and there's only consciousness, perceiving itself through form. 4. Freedom from psychological time. When we anchor ourselves in the now, we step out of psychological time, the mental story of who we were and who we should be. This frees us from guilt, regret, anxiety, and worry, the mind's favorite tools for keeping us unconscious. Living in the present doesn't mean rejecting the past or future. It means recognizing that both exist only as thoughts. The past gives lessons. The future gives direction. But life itself is always here. 5. The eternal now. Tolle describes the now as the space of being, timeless, formless, infinite. When we enter that space, even briefly, we touch eternity. Problems lose their weight because they exist only in time. In the now, there are no problems, only situations to be met with awareness. He writes, "Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. This is the essence of awakening, the shift from living in time to living in presence. When you inhabit the moment fully, you discover that peace was never something to seek. It was the background of awareness all along. In this way, every conscious breath becomes an act of liberation. Every moment of stillness becomes an entrance into eternity. The present moment isn't just the gateway to awakening, it is awakening." Section 4. The flowering of human consciousness. Eckhart Tolle describes human consciousness as something that, like nature itself, evolves and blooms. Just as flowers open when the conditions are right, so too does human awareness unfold when suffering has done its work. This process, he says, is not personal, it's universal. It's the natural movement of life awakening to itself through the human form. 1. From unconsciousness to awareness. Humanity's evolution began in deep unconsciousness, a state of survival and instinct. Over millennia, thought developed, giving rise to intelligence, creativity, and civilization. But with this gift came a shadow, identification with the mind. The same faculty that helped us shape the world also enslaved us to it. Tolle writes that our collective pain, conflict, and disconnection are not signs of failure, but of transition. The tension between two states of consciousness. Humanity is being asked to evolve once again, not outwardly this time, but inwardly, from identification to awareness, from ego to essence. He calls this transformation the flowering of consciousness, the emergence of presence through the cracks of egoic structure. 2. The role of suffering. Suffering, paradoxically, plays a vital role in this awakening. It's the pressure that cracks the shell of ego. Every breakdown, loss, or moment of despair holds within it a seed of awakening if we stop resisting long enough to see it. Pain becomes purification when awareness meets it. Tolle explains that the ego's collapse feels like death because, in a sense, it is the death of false identity. But what dies is not the self, it's the illusion of separation. What remains is peace. He writes, "The secret of life is to die before you die and find that there is no death." 3. The shift in collective energy. As more individuals awaken, the collective consciousness begins to shift. The change doesn't happen through ideology or revolution, but through vibration, the silent energy of presence. Each awakened person becomes like a light in a darkened room. Their stillness affects others without words. This is how the new earth begins, not through systems or beliefs, but through awareness, spreading naturally, one life at a time. 4. The symbol of the flower. Tolle often uses the flower as a symbol of awakening. Flowers exist in stillness and radiate beauty without striving. They don't compare or compete, they simply are. He writes, "The first recognition of beauty was one of the most significant events in the evolution of human consciousness. To see beauty is to momentarily step beyond thought, to touch the eternal through form. In this way, flowers are not just part of nature. They are nature's reminder of enlightenment, the visible expression of consciousness awakening within matter." 5. The invitation. The flowering of consciousness is not something to force. It happens when resistance ends, when we stop trying to become something and simply allow ourselves to be. Awakening is not a doing, it's an undoing. The ego fades not because we destroy it, but because we stop feeding it. And in that space of stillness, something timeless blooms, awareness itself. Tolle's vision is clear. As more human beings awaken from unconscious living, the planet itself will mirror that shift. The outer world will begin to reflect inner peace. The new earth will not be built, it will be born. Section 5. Relationships and the Egoic pattern. Eckhart Tolle reminds us that relationships are not the cause of our pain. They are the mirror that reveals it. Few arenas of life expose the ego more clearly than love. What we call falling in love is often the temporary dissolving of the ego's boundaries, a glimpse of unity mistaken for possession. When the initial euphoria fades, the ego reclaims control, and love turns into conflict, projection, and disappointment. 1. Ego and the illusion of possession. The ego sees relationships as extensions of itself, things to own, control, or define its worth. It says, "You complete me." But what it really means is, "You validate my identity." When the other person stops fulfilling that function, the ego feels threatened and pain arises. Tolle explains that this dynamic is why so many relationships oscillate between attraction and rejection, dependency and resentment. The ego feeds on both pleasure and pain. It needs drama to feel alive. He writes, "As long as the ego runs your life, most of your thoughts, emotions, and actions arise from desire and fear." True love cannot exist in such a climate because love and ego are opposites. Ego seeks to use, love seeks to see. 2. The pain body in relationships. Tolle introduces the concept of the pain body, the emotional residue of past suffering that lives within us. When triggered, it takes over our thoughts, words, and reactions. It feeds on negativity, conflict, and drama, and often uses close relationships as its feeding ground. The pain body says, "If I can make you hurt, I'll feel alive." Two unconscious pain bodies meeting can turn a small misunderstanding into a storm. But once awareness enters, everything changes. When you observe your pain body instead of becoming it, it loses power. Awareness exposes it to the light of presence, and what is seen cannot control you anymore. 3. Conscious relationships. In a conscious relationship, both partners recognize the ego when it arises, in themselves and in each other, without judgment. Instead of asking, "How can you make me happy?" they ask, "How can we stay present together?" The relationship becomes a spiritual practice, a shared field of awareness where both people grow. Tolle writes, "Relationships are not meant to make you happy. They are meant to make you conscious. When love is free from need, it becomes spacious. You stop trying to possess and start to see. You love not because someone fulfills you, but because love is what you are when the ego dissolves." 4. The gift of presence. Presence heals relationships because it removes projection. When you're fully present with someone, you're no longer seeing them through the lens of your mind. Your expectations, fears, and stories fade. What remains is direct connection, awareness meeting awareness. In that state, love is not something exchanged. It is something revealed. The ego cannot survive in such space because presence is pure relationship. Tolle reminds us that the purpose of every relationship is awakening. When two people use love not to escape themselves, but to find themselves, the relationship becomes sacred. In that sacredness, the new earth begins, not in politics or religion, but in the simple act of two beings becoming conscious together. Section 6. Work and Purpose in the New Earth. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle explains that the way we relate to work and purpose reflects the level of consciousness we live from. In the old paradigm, the egoic world, work was a means to identity, a way to prove our worth, accumulate status, or achieve recognition. But in the new consciousness, work becomes an expression of being, not a pursuit of becoming. 1. Outer purpose versus inner purpose. Tolle distinguishes between two forms of purpose: outer purpose and inner purpose. Outer purpose is what you do, your career, your projects, your goals. Inner purpose is what you are, the state of consciousness from which you act. Most people, he says, focus exclusively on the outer and neglect the inner. They ask, "What should I do with my life?" But the deeper question is, who am I as I do it? The ego uses outer purpose to strengthen its identity. It works not from presence, but from need, the need to succeed, to compete, to be seen. This kind of striving breeds stress, exhaustion, and dissatisfaction, no matter how impressive the achievements appear from the outside. 2. Work as presence. Tolle's message is that true success does not come from effort alone. It comes from alignment. When your doing flows from being, your work carries an energy that words cannot describe. Whether you're designing, teaching, cleaning, or building, the quality of your consciousness infuses the work itself. He writes, "When the basis for your actions is inner alignment with the present moment, your actions become empowered by the intelligence of life itself. Presence transforms work into service. It dissolves the need to prove and replaces it with the joy of creating. You no longer work to achieve peace later. You work from peace now." 3. Discovering your role. The ego often insists that purpose must be grand or impressive, something that changes the world. But Tolle reminds us that greatness lies in depth, not scale. An awakened gardener contributes as much to the new earth as a visionary leader, because both are channels for the same awareness. Purpose is not defined by what you do, but by how consciously you do it. When presence fills your actions, even the smallest task becomes sacred. 4. The power of stillness. Tolle also speaks about the importance of stillness in the rhythm of purpose. Periods of non-doing are not wasted. They are essential. From stillness arises clarity, creativity, and guidance. He writes, "Doing is born of being." When the balance is lost, you lose yourself in doing and forget who you are. In the new earth, purpose is no longer about striving to create a better future. It's about expressing the peace of the present. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means infusing ambition with awareness. 5. The joy of alignment. When your inner and outer purpose align, effort dissolves into flow. Work becomes an extension of your awareness, not a path to success, but an expression of it. You stop asking, "What do I get from this?" and begin asking, "What does life want to express through me right now?" That question changes everything. It transforms ambition into creativity, competition into contribution, and labor into love. In that state, the new earth is not a distant dream. It's already here, wherever consciousness meets action. Section 7. The Pain Body. The energy of the past. Among Eckhart Tolle's most powerful insights is his teaching on the pain body, an invisible force that lives within every human being. He describes it as the accumulation of old emotional pain. It is the energy field of unresolved past suffering that lingers in both the mind and the body. The pain body is not a metaphor. It's a living presence that awakens whenever we're triggered. It feeds on negativity, anger, resentment, jealousy, fear, and when active, it takes control of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Tolle writes, "The pain body wants to survive, just like every other entity in existence, and it can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it." 1. How the pain body operates. When the pain body takes over, it demands one thing: more pain. It provokes conflict, drama, and emotional reactions. Not because you want to suffer, but because it wants to feed. It whispers, "They're wrong. You've been betrayed." You must defend yourself, and the moment you believe that voice, it grows stronger. Many people live their entire lives possessed by the pain body, repeating the same emotional patterns and relationship dynamics. They relive old wounds disguised as new experiences. 2. Collective pain bodies. Tolle explains that the pain body exists not only individually, but collectively. Entire nations, cultures, and religions carry emotional imprints from their shared past. Wars, oppression, injustice, energies that continue to shape behavior today. This is why some conflicts never seem to end. They are not logical, they are energetic. The collective pain body can rise suddenly, triggered by events that echo old trauma, reigniting anger, revenge, and division. To heal humanity, Tolle says, we must first heal the emotional residue within ourselves. 3. How to dissolve the pain body. Awareness is the only force that can dissolve the pain body. When you observe it arising, when you feel anger, grief, or fear without labeling it, you stop feeding it. You become the witness rather than the victim. Tolle calls this process the alchemy of awareness. Instead of reacting, you allow the emotion to exist in the light of consciousness. You feel it fully without identifying with it. In that still presence, the pain body cannot survive, because it depends on unconsciousness to thrive. He writes, "You can't be conscious and unhappy at the same time." 4. Transmutation through presence. When awareness meets pain, transformation happens naturally. The energy once used for resistance turns into peace. Every time you stay present through a wave of emotion, a layer of the pain body dissolves. What once was suffering becomes consciousness. Tolle reminds us that this healing process is not instant. It's gradual and sacred. Each awakening moment contributes not only to your own liberation, but to humanity's collective evolution. As the pain body fades, space opens within you, a space that feels lighter, quieter, and infinitely alive. That space is the new consciousness. It's the beginning of the new earth within. Section 8. The Awakening of Humanity. Eckhart Tolle envisions a future where the transformation of consciousness becomes humanity's next evolutionary step. He calls this shift the awakening of humanity, not a physical or technological revolution, but a spiritual one, a change in how we perceive, not just how we live. Throughout history, human beings have advanced in science, culture, and innovation, yet our consciousness has remained bound by ego. The same mind that builds hospitals also builds weapons. The same intelligence that discovers cures also creates division. Tolle explains that unless awareness evolves, technology and progress only magnify our unconsciousness. The world reflects the state of the collective mind. But a new kind of evolution has already begun, one that moves from the head to the heart, from thinking to being. Humanity is starting to awaken, slowly but surely, to the realization that peace and fulfillment are not found in the world, but through consciousness itself. 1. The collapse of egoic structures. Before awakening, there is often chaos. Old systems, political, religious, economic, built on fear and competition begin to crumble. This collapse is not destruction, it is purification. What no longer aligns with awareness cannot survive the light of consciousness. Tolle writes, "The dysfunction of the old consciousness and the arising of the new are happening simultaneously." You can see this in the world today, the tension between greed and compassion, division and unity, confusion and awakening. The darkness is not proof of failure. It's evidence that the light is growing stronger. 2. A shift in the collective field. Each individual who awakens contributes to this planetary shift. Consciousness doesn't spread through teaching or preaching. It spreads through presence. When even one person becomes still and aware, the collective vibration of the world subtly changes. This is why, Tolle says, the most important thing you can do for humanity is to awaken yourself. You don't have to fix the world. You only need to become a source of clarity within it. Awareness radiates naturally, like light through glass. 3. Living as the new earth. The new earth is not somewhere we are going. It is something we are becoming. It emerges wherever love replaces fear, awareness replaces judgment, and being replaces doing. Every conscious act, a kind word, a moment of silence, a breath taken in awareness, contributes to this collective flowering. When enough individuals live in presence, humanity will cross a threshold. Our systems, art, and relationships will all reflect a new intelligence, one rooted in unity rather than separation. Tolle writes, "A new species is arising on the planet. It is still rare, but growing in numbers. That species is not defined by genetics or geography. It's defined by awareness." 4. The role of the individual. You are not separate from this evolution. You are the evolution. Every moment of awareness, every time you choose peace over reaction, you help build the new earth. The shift doesn't require mass movements or leaders. It requires consciousness, here and now. In Tolle's vision, the awakened humanity of tomorrow will live not as isolated individuals, but as expressions of one universal consciousness, diverse in form, united in essence. The new earth is already here, quietly emerging in those who have learned to be still, to see clearly, to love without need. It begins as all great revolutions do within. Section 9. The Birth of Presence. Conclusion. At the heart of a new earth lies one radiant truth. Awakening is not a distant event. It is a birth that happens in this very moment. Eckhart Tolle reminds us that humanity's next chapter is not about becoming more powerful, successful, or intelligent, but about becoming more present. The birth of presence is the birth of a new way of being, one that transcends the noise of thought and touches the stillness beneath all forms. Presence is not something we create. It's what remains when we stop being lost in time. It is the silent awareness that looks through your eyes right now, the timeless watcher of all experiences. When you awaken to that realization, even for a breath, you step into the same stillness that has guided sages, poets, and mystics across all ages. 1. the dissolution of the old self. As presence grows, the false self, the ego, the pain body, the old identity, naturally fades. Not because it was defeated, but because it is no longer needed. The illusion of separation dissolves, and life begins to flow through you effortlessly, without resistance or fear. You begin to sense an intelligence greater than thought guiding every moment, an underlying harmony in the movement of life itself. You see that what you called your life was never truly separate from the whole. 2. The simplicity of being. In this new consciousness, nothing outwardly changes, yet everything feels different. You may still work, create, love, and face challenges, but you no longer carry the weight of identity into them. You respond instead of react. You listen instead of judge. You act from clarity, not from need. This is the freedom Tolle speaks of. Not the freedom to control life, but the freedom from needing to. He writes, "You find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level." 3. The new earth within. The new earth is not a place we arrive at. It's a state of consciousness that arises. It begins wherever a human being becomes still enough to sense the sacredness of life itself. When you recognize yourself as consciousness, you no longer seek meaning. You become meaning. When you live in awareness, you don't wait for peace. You are peace. And when enough of us live from that space, the planet itself will transform. Tolle ends with a quiet certainty. The purpose of life is not survival or success. It is awakening. Every moment of presence contributes to that purpose, whether through meditation, creativity, love, or simple attention. Each conscious breath, each act of kindness, each moment of stillness is a spark of the new earth being born, here, now, through you. Download the summary in high-quality MP3 format at MindShelf.net. For more timeless book summaries on spiritual growth, psychology, self-improvement, and the art of living wisely, subscribe to MindShelf on YouTube and keep expanding your inner library of wisdom. Grow in awareness. Live in balance. This is MindShelf.